Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Sue's Muse. Today I am musing with a very dear friend of mine, the lovely Meg Flather. Thank you for doing this, Meg. Welcome.
Ah, thank you, my friend.
Now, Meg is every award in the city she's won, Bistro, Mac, Broadway, World, everything, and deservedly so, I might add. And she came to the community a while back, joined Mac, and just took the community by storm. And it's not just her singing, which is exquisite. It's the formation of her shows, and it's her original songwriting, which put her on the map with a lot of us. That she created the sisterhood by offering a show of all of us, her sisters, doing her original music, and that made a lifetime bond for all of us. Tell me a little bit about the sisterhood and how that came to be.
Well, what's interesting is it's very connected to the next show I'm doing. But what happened was I had lost my voice. I lost my voice in 2019, right before doing a show about grief. Hello, on the anniversary of my mother's death.
Wow.
Like, what was I thinking? And I needed to lose my voice. And I went into total vocal rest for a couple of months. And I wrote a song about appreciating others on stage. I think I was having a text exchange with one of our peers, really feeling invisible, not feeling like they're making an impact. And that was called Only See You. So then at one of Natasha's open mics at 53 Below, I had Josephine Sanchez, Celia Burke, and Sally Darling sing it with me because I was just coming back into my voice. And then I walked Sally to her taxi on Ninth Avenue, and she said how much she loved singing an original song of mine. And then I confided in her, and I said, Sally, I had this idea a while back of having a whole group of my women singing my songs where I was the MC. And she basically commanded me that night
That's
to go
Sally's way.
and email Sydney Meyer, and the date was set, and I literally channeled all of you. It was really interesting. I sat on my little phone, I opened up, a page, a little note, and I cast all of you in a matter of 5 minutes.
Wow.
So it must have been hovering, and then it was exquisite how you all stepped to the plate. Oh, what you and Deborah Stone did. And it was wild to stand in the back and trust, and I mean this, I'm not fishing for a compliment, that the songs were good enough for all of you, because I really panicked that first show, because I stood in the back and it was all up to you guys, and the house was packed, and I had nothing more to do than allow this to happen.
And as a songwriter, I know as a singer of an original song, I'm always really, really worried about getting it right and doing it exactly as the songwriter wanted it. But you gave us free rein to interpret your music in a way that was respectful of how you wrote it, but still gave us a little leeway. And how was that to hear the reimagined ones?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I'll be honest, I appreciated when all the lyrics were correct.
Yes.
When lyrics aren't correct, you don't rewrite Hammerstein, but I love when people took the music and interpreted the arrangements,
Yeah.
as we do in cabaret. It was really exciting. In some ways, I think you all sang the songs better. And that was a really good, profound, humbling, important moment as a writer.
Did you steal anybody's stuff to put back into when you do it?
Well, it's funny, when I had to return to it years later with Hold On Tight, I had to start all over again to find it in my voice again, because I was so used to you guys, and I was like, I don't know if I can sing my own songs.
Let's stay on the songwriting a little bit. Tell me, is it the chicken or the egg? I said this with Craig Rabano. Is it a process where lyrics come to you? Do you write down gems of ideas that come to you walking on the street? Do you dictate into your phone? And then does the music come, the collaboration with the musical director or your own music? How does it work for you as a songwriter?
It depends on the song. Some of them happen to me. I mean, some of them literally wake me up in the night, and I'm convinced I didn't write them. I'm waiting for the lawsuit. But most of the time, it's the lyric. I get an idea of a concept. Like when Deborah Stone and I were hanging out, and I just said out loud, her dreams were a secret, but I knew the secret. She said, write that down. And I wrote it.
That song was stunning. You just performed that at the St. Jude's banquet.
Yours.
That was a stunning song. Yeah.
Nobody throws a benefit like you, my friend, and nobody does anything like you, actually.
Uh,
And so, so usually it's an idea first, but then I do hear a rhythm,
mhm.
a sense of what the style of the song is, a meter. I hear a meter, and then I usually get either the bridge or the chorus or the verse. I get one of those in my head, and the other two I have to find.
I see.
So I take my time. Like I think a lot of some of the advice I would give to a young songwriter is I was in such a hurry in the early days, and I would complete half-baked songs. So a lot of the songs in the first CD are really good starts, and I'm like, oh, heck, oh, like rushing to finish it because I wanted to check the box.
Right.
And now I really sit with a song for a long time. I'm a very slow writer. I might write 2 songs a year if I'm lucky. But I know when they're done, they're what I can do.
Now,
They're
let
like,
me ask you, when you put a song up for the first time that you've written, and this happens to me sometimes on stage where I always try to have a connection to my song, and you clearly do because you know what you're writing about. Have you ever had that moment where something extra kicked in on stage and you were like surprised? You surprised yourself with your own words where it took you? And
well,
so what
example,
song was that?
well, the Mistress Waltz, when I wrote it, I thought she was a victim.
Ah,
And then I performed it. This was in the East Village days before you rescued me and brought me back to Mac. I mean, you literally were the one that said, "Come back to us, join. It's going to be great." Um, and I did, and it was, and I thank you. But the first time I sat on the Sidewalk Cafe stage and sang the Mistress Waltz, I found her very empowered. And it's hold on, someone's trying to drink some water.
aw. Hello, buddy.
Little Sebastian. He insists on having his own water glass on my desk. Yes, he doesn't drink water in the kitchen.
A little Devo.
Little people, exactly. But I remember that feeling of just saying, go with it. Because what's great about those days of performing in the East Village is you weren't being reviewed. And okay, enough. You weren't being reviewed, and you could be a truly experiment, which I really wish more for cabaret that could
Yeah,
happen
yeah.
because you would just get a set on Avenue A, and you'd just work these songs out, and you would sing half-baked songs, and you would go home and work on them. But yeah, Mistress Waltz went from being about a victim to a woman who was very much, yeah, there you go, very much in
Yeah.
her own choice of being a mistress.
Again,
And
now I want to move into your collaborative process because I know that a lot of songs you co-write with Tracy and other musical.
no, actually, I've never co-written with her. All my songs.
Really?
Yeah, she and I are really a cool team. We support each other's songwriting, and we sing each other. Like when we did that trio show with Rosemary, it was about our individual songs, but then we sang backing vocals for each other. I'd love
That's
to.
interesting. I always just thought that there was some kind, because you guys are such a great team.
Well,
Talk to me about working with Tracy.
I'll tell you what she does, though. Oh my God, what she does is she finds a way to play basically guitar-based songs because that's what I hear. I always hear the guitar,
Mhm.
and that's why I work with John Gordon, my producer, because I hear the songs on guitar first, and then I'm often recording them with guitar with him.
Mhm.
But then Tracy has been the master at taking these guitar songs and bringing them to piano. And I don't miss anything. I don't miss any of the instruments in the recording when she plays. She finds a way to have the entire band in what she plays. And her backing vocals,
Mm.
her ability to sing any range.
It's true. I know. She's a freak.
And she doesn't get enough clout for that because she's so good at the other things.
Right.
But I've had her sing backing vocals on several of the songs since I met her, because I love the sound we make together.
Mhm.
And when I hear her voice, I calm down. It's so interesting.
It's so funny. Whenever I'm with Tracy and I look back and I look at Tracy, I on her birthday I always post this picture of her with her head thrown back, and I said, "This is music. This is music," because she's always so present with you on stage, and
Oh,
you
completely.
two have a beautiful simpatico on stage. It's a beautiful team, and then add to that your work with Lenny Watts, who you always say Lenny Watts, Lenny Watts, Lenny Watts. Talk to me about working with Lenny a little bit.
Lenny was the first director that I could really trust to do something bold and brave that if I didn't completely commit to it, I'd make a fool of myself.
I see.
And he is truth. What I love about his directing style is he doesn't coddle. He's not a parent. He's not a therapist. He keeps a very strong boundary. It's about the work.
Mm-hmm.
We worked on several shows before I really felt we were close friends. And I love that because I think it's very important to have that boundary because then you can disagree and then it's collaborative and you're not worried about, did I hurt your feelings? Like it's about the work.
Yeah.
And he's the person that I trust to keep chipping away at the walls that I put up. And, I remember as a young artist never thinking I had anything and putting up like a fake version of me for years. And he just helps chip away at her and trust that whatever's behind this false version of myself is much more interesting. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't feel that way because it's not work.
Right.
But the work is to allow me in the song. And I think
I've always loved the process as much as I love to actually get up on stage. So to have someone that brings the joy into the work and the safety to explore has got to be everything. Tell me about your process. Do you write your script, lay out your music, go to Tracy, go to Lenny, or are you all in at the same time? I'm always fascinated by people's processes and how
well, in the beginning, since I didn't really know how great a collaborative experience it was going to be, I would have everything ready. And then I would bring it to them and they would make it so much better. Mm-hmm. And particularly like Tracy would bring it to a whole other level musically. And then Lenny would really be great with the logic and reminding me it's about the audience. Mm-hmm. So the order, if it was too heavy, if it was too light, like he just really helped me get out of my head and remember it's about them. Mm-hmm. And then through them, you will have your experience. Mm-hmm. I think that's really the big point of difference with him.
Well, listen to that advice, everyone. Through them, you will have your experience. That's genius.
Isn't that genius? And I think that is the whole point of when you feel a performance and when you don't.
Right. Sometimes
I watch performers having a great time and I'm like, where are you? And then there are times where I don't know why, but I'm in a puddle. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what they did differently. So I'm thinking it must be that they got out of the way and they let me have their song with them in the audience. But then what happened recently is I would have a good idea, like with Rodgers and Hammerstein today, right before the pandemic. I had this idea, and I met with Lenny, and he said, "I love this idea." He gave me some suggestions of things to listen to, and then I went back and did my homework, mm-hmm. and then I channeled what I wanted to say about those two men in our time. Mm-hmm. And then we began working via Zoom and then chipped away at giving me permission because I was struggling with giving myself permission to sing this music. Mm-hmm. I really had it on such a pedestal. So a lot of his work was just pretend you wrote these songs. This is a Meg gig.
Treat them like they're yours because they are yours. Once you take them on, they're yours. So.
And I had to heal a lot of the musical theater demons.
Yeah.
Because, when we give up the theater thing, even though we know we were right to, there is a feeling that we didn't belong there. And so through these later shows, I've healed that little Meg in Summerstock. And now it's just good music, period.
How lucky are we to have this venue and this genre called cabaret to really express who we are through whatever kind of music, because the umbrella is so big. Speaking of shows, now it all started in April when you brought back, you have a series of shows. I want you to talk about the process. It started in April with Back When We Were Beautiful.
No, it actually started with Portraits.
Oh, before that, when was Portraits?
February. Portraits.
Okay, tell me about the whole thing. You're revisiting all these amazing shows that you've done, and your next one's in June, but I also want to talk about the ones that are upcoming. So give me a layout of what your programs are going to be and how it started and where the idea came from.
Well, first of all, it's a celebration of that brick room at Don't Tell Mama, which I consider my little what is it when an artist in residency. Right. And Lenny and Tracy and I together have created all these shows in that room. And so we were winding down last year, the final Hammerstein Sondheim. And I was like, what should I do next year? I'm really going to miss this show. And I don't feel a new one right now. And he said, why don't you revisit? And then he went, why don't you revisit all of them? Why don't you do all of them? I was like, I can't do that. And it was so good for my brain. So Portraits was from 1993, but it was the first show that Lenny directed, because I did it in 2015 with Stephen Hanks's series of revisiting old shows at the
Right, right.
Metropolitan. So that was the first time I hired Lenny, and he changed everything. I mean, he gave Portraits so much more dimension. He gave me so much more courage. I mean, they were finally portraits.
And
As
then
opposed
and
to
then you're
what
gonna be then you
material.
did Back When We Were Beautiful in
And Act
April.
More Beautiful.
You're bringing Outward Bound, Sunday the 23rd. Now all these shows are Sundays at 4 o'clock. So Outward
4
Bound's
o'clock. And outbound, it's actually Outbound Plane, because
okay.
it's a song in the show of a wonderful Nancy Griffith song. But this is the show I put together and lost my voice and had to wait to do it. And it was the show I put together after Mom died. And it was because I had just written Like a Sunday, and I thought about necessary grief. I thought about the necessary endings we must go through where there's grief and gratitude, whether it's career hiccups, personal life hiccups, societal hiccups, death in your life. So I had this idea, and Lenny was like, okay, this sounds intense. I'm like, well, I'm intense. And so I started exploring different endings, songs that are about different endings in your life. And thank God we found, the humor and some irony. But yeah, it's all about the necessary endings in your life that lead you eventually to where you're supposed to go. But the best part is the eclectic. It's everything from Joan Armatrading to Nancy Griffith, to
Meg Flather.
yeah, there's a Meg Flather in there. So it's fun. It's an interesting. It's a snapshot. These shows are snapshots of who I was in that time, and so to be 60 in 2024 performing them has been really interesting because I'm not the same.
Yeah.
So I'm singing them through this lens, but I'm also honoring who was Meg when she put them together.
All right, so we need to wrap up here because
Okay.
time we want to keep these interviews short. But I will have all this information up with this clip of all these shows and when they're playing. But September 22nd, Rodgers and Hammerstein today. November 24th, Hammerstein and Sondheim Carefully Taught, which was one of my favorite shows. I had show envy in that concept. I'm not going to ruin it because it was such a surprise to find out what that show was about, but how carefully taught meant so many things within that show in what you presented. So, and then December is going to be a surprise
Yes,
in terms of whichever one you're going to bring back.
that's right.
So I just want to end with asking you, what was one of the single most helpful pieces of advice that you got? Craig Cornelius was a fortune cookie. I don't know if you saw that interview. It was hysterical, but it was poignant for him. But what was a piece of advice that you got from a friend or mentor that helped you in this business?
I would really say what Lenny taught me during Rodgers and Hammerstein when I didn't feel I was worthy of the material I chose, because I had played it very safe in many ways vocally in shows. I didn't work on my break. I didn't work on my soprano. I didn't find songs that really pushed me as an actress. So by having him really give me that lecture, a loving lecture about taking this material off a pedestal and imagining that I wrote these songs, was life-saving. To give yourself the material you want to sing. There's no song you can't sing. There's no poetry you can't recite. There is a process, though, to make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next piece of advice I would give is give yourself the time, because in my case, I needed a year.
Mm-hmm.
I needed that entire pandemic to sing Rodgers and Hammerstein. And if I hadn't had that pandemic, I would have done the show too soon.
Right.
And I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I would have been petrified the whole time.
All right. Thank you, my darling. I really appreciate you spending time with us. I will have all this information up on this interview at the bottom so that you can see when Meg's shows are coming up. But do go see her. If you don't know this extraordinary woman, you can hear how great she is, but her process is amazing. Her voice is amazing. And what she has to say should be heard. So thank you for being my guest today. I love you, darling. Have a great day, honey.
You, darling.
And we'll see you next time.